what dreams are made of. The romance, the adventure, the awakenings, and of course, the escape. But I'm curious, does travel actually inspire us? What do we learn from places that look different, smell different, sound different than what we're used to? As I travel through lands that are so different from my home, it's hard not to think about my own life. I reflect on the choices I've made in the past. I see the here and now in a new way and become inspired by new possibilities for the future. More importantly, I come home with a greater awareness that I am in fact not the center of the universe.
I was one of my first experiences with like an individual travel. I was a teenager, I think I was 16, and I got to go to Africa. And that was a big different place. Being like the only white person in the room was different than seeing the guy that's the only black guy in the room. And it definitely was a growing experience for me, gave me a huge perspective when I came back to Oregon.
I got to see myself and my country from outside of there. I got to see it from another perspective.
One of my good friends from my days living in Houston, Texas, is Anila Kayumaga. She is a woman who has uplifted her life in Pakistan and come to America, where she had to assimilate into a very different culture while making a name for herself as an artist. I decided to ask Anila if and how traveling has inspired the work she makes. Specifically, the first piece that won her global recognition and was the first to be awarded both the People's Choice Award and the Jurors Award at the Grand Rapids Art Prize in 2014.
When I went to the Alhambra, it made me think of a number of things. I realized that it felt really familiar to me. The space, the gardens and the environment. And it took me back in time, in memory, where I realized that I'd been to places like that in my childhood. You could hear the sound of silence and the cuckoos and the birds chirping away, and the sunshine was beautiful. And there was screens on the entrances and exits that were carved out of marble. And so that was a very familiar place to me. It made me think of my life in Pakistan, and it made me think of the desire to build something that would create the look on people's faces when they were walking around that complex, because they just all kind of went quiet. But everybody walked around with a look of awe on their face and quiet. I wanted to create this environment where I could create that sense. So at first I'd envisioned that it would be over my head and I'd have light flickering through, kind of like walking under trees with the sun shining. And so that's when the cube idea popped into my head. And I thought, if you put a single light in it, it'll blow up the entire room. So let's do that. And when I went to the Alhambra, I saw exactly the similar kind of work there. It's not a religious place. It's actually a palace that people lived in. And there was a mosque as probably part of it, but it was a palace. But there were more Moors who had come from the Middle East and conquered southern Spain. And so they built this beautiful palace for the kings to live in. And here, this jewel of a place was built where artisans from all different faiths were brought in to build these beautiful structures. Why can't we find this moment in time again?
What you seem to have wanted to say to other people was, come find some quiet, come find some peace. And you were inspired to do that by an experience you had.
Multiple experiences, I would say. We make the work as a reflection of what we see around us. And I think my work is about that. We kind of need to create communities so that instead of just thinking that we are we are the only ones that matter. The world matters.
Yeah.
Alan traveled to New York City right after 9/11 to cook for the first responders on Ground Zero. At that time, there wasn't anybody who would get on an airplane and go to New York City. There was no one. And we got on an airplane, we went to New York City. It was life-changing going on that trip, and absolutely no regret there.
If you're able to travel to a place, no matter what it is or where it is, always think that you bring a piece of that back with you. You know, I don't think you'd ever be the same.
Yeah, sure. You get to be better people. You get to be bigger people. I mean, bigger in here and here.
It broadens you, you know, when you travel, it just broadens your view of the world, how you experience it.
Traveling to unfamiliar places and immersing ourselves in the unknown can be incredibly inspiring. It can change us and will definitely broaden how we see the world and our place in it. The past has the same effect. Our childhood experiences are at the root of our choices as adults. So understanding where we came from helps us make choices for a better, more inspiring future.
Okay, so like being from Houston in the area called the Bottoms and Third Ward, like mom coming home from work and not being able to have the things that my friends had. And so you remember, I'm also an only child, right? So you start to create things because you don't have things.
I'm from Mississippi originally. And so we often talk about, like, we both talk about how we grew up as only kids, but I really grew up like by myself because I had no neighbors. There's a long road you go down, and another long road, and the house, and a field in the front, a field in the back, and there's land all around it, no neighbors. So I was really by myself a lot, and I grew up with my grandparents. And so as far as my history is concerned, growing up in the South, you know, we went to church, and I have family members that are very musically inclined, and so bringing that forward to now, it's just that all those things are sort of in me. You know, what inspired you growing up? What ingredients are you made out of? You know, look at other family members and don't be afraid, even if it's the crazy aunt or uncle, do not be afraid to look at them and see, you know, well, you know what? I have that in common with them, you know, and it's okay.
You know, that's a great way to reference how that is part of us. That's part of my ingredients, I guess, as you would say. I love that term. They're cooking.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know,
Reflecting on my past has helped me define my goals. And each time I reached a goal, it wasn't a victory, it was an accomplishment. And when I faltered, it wasn't a mistake, it was a lesson. In both cases, I've always been inspired to keep going. Experiencing new places and new ways of doing things, and acknowledging that our past is part of who we are now, is both insightful and inspiring as we negotiate today and plan for life tomorrow. There's one more thing I want to find out before we're done with this journey. I want to know if and how inspiration can help us recover from trauma. Is there a spiritual side to inspiration? And if so, what does that look like? Let's find out in the next episode. See you then.
Maybe you should edit that part out.
Don't worry, I'll edit.